Welcome back. So today's topic of discussion is partners from a different race or ethnicity. So we're going to take a look at some of the differences and some of the commonalities. So some of the differences can be upbringing. So for instance, your boyfriend or girlfriend's and their environment that they grew up in. For instance, the kinds of traditions that they practice. If you're from different countries, it could look different. For say, for instance, Christmas or Thanksgiving or Mother's Day or Father's Day or what have you. Also communication, if there is a language barrier, that can also look different, because then expressing of feelings, emotions might not be familiar to you. Then there's also gender roles. Views on this can be different from people from different backgrounds, or specifically different ethnicities. Then there's also belief systems. So for instance, spiritual could be different. Just common things since you're dating. So for instance, having kids, some people are opposed to adoption because of where they're from. Some people are okay with it, and so that can also look different. And then even topics such as finances could look different based on their upbringing and what was the norm in their household, or what was the norm in their household. So some of the unifying factors can be so communication, right? That's always a big thing. So finding a means to learn your partner's language so you can communicate better. So for instance, in that case, the use of like technology. So some of the language resources are, for instance, Duolingo, which helps a lot with grammar. So the different languages are Spanish, French, German, Italian, Portuguese, Dutch, Japanese, etc. Then there's also another called Anki, A-N-K-I. It helps with the use of flashcards to aid in memorizing vocabulary. Then there's also commonalities. So things that you can find yourself having a likeness for, or so for instance, sports, music, the genre, maybe the arts, also movies, those kinds of things, food, and a third would be your goals and purposes. So you can have maybe similar goals or complementary purposes, and that also can help unify you as a couple. Another thing is recognizing what the base attraction was for you to your partner, and honing in on that. So, and last unifying factor will be creating your own traditions to help unite you as a couple. So these are the few things that can help you, instead of looking for differences and letting that be something that causes contention. It's a good idea to look for the things that you have in common, so you can work on those things and improve your relationship, especially if that person means a lot to you. Then it is worth it investing a way or a means to bridge that gap between the two of you. So essentially, there can be so many different factors. So essentially, you can look for ways to split you apart, or ways to come together and unite as a couple, regardless of where you're from. I think one of the key things here, as I said, communication, but also the belief system, and being a spiritual, what kind of spiritual belief system does the person have. If you're a believer, that's one of the most important things. You should look for one of the most, there's several things to look for, but one of the most important things to look for, because you're intending to date this person, and if the goal is marriage, then that's something you definitely want to consider and factor in. But as always, it's the best idea to take it to God on who you're drawn to, regardless of where they're from, but just to use discernment to break down all these differences and similarities that I've discussed, and to be led to move however you're called to. So I hope this is helpful to someone who wants to partner up with someone from a different race or ethnicity. And yes, I hope you tune in another time. Thank you so much for watching. Please go ahead, comment, like, subscribe, and check out my social media links below. And remember, Love Through Life Designs is love in action.